welcome to this new DevirTV video. Here we are at Devir's booth on Saturday at Spiel de Essen. It's very crowded, there's lots of people, thousands of people playing games, and here we are with Rob Daviau, a great author. We're going to talk a bit with him. You know him because he's one of the designers of Pandemic Legacy and also SeaFall, that's a new game to come by Devir the next month. And we're going to talk a bit with him about those games and more things to come. How are you, Rob?
I'm good. It's busy here.
You're really busy.
It's just moving through this crowd is a bit of an effort.
It's difficult, but well, here you are.
It's quiet here, and I'm sitting.
Yeah, well, enjoy. Then you said to me that's your third time at Essen.
Yes, I came in 2006.
Okay.
When I worked at Hasbro, and then didn't get back again until last year. When Pandemic Legacy was launching. And now I'm here, and I'll come as often as I can. It's a little far, but I like to be here.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, this year for you, I think, must be a bit different because
it's been a good year.
It's been a good year for you.
It's very different this year than last year, and I'm not going to have a year like this anytime soon, so I'm enjoying it right now.
How you feel about all the Pandemic Legacy huge success?
It's been wonderful. I mean, it's crazy that a year ago it wasn't even out. And now all of this talk and people want to know what I'm doing next, and I've got projects lined up, and it's just been great.
Now everyone is like, season two, please.
Season 2 is next year.
Yeah, we saw a picture.
That was a leak. That wasn't supposed to be out.
That's cool.
The game, that was just someone got excited and thought, I'm going to show a picture from a meeting. But it's out there now. Nothing I can do.
Nope. Well, how you met Matt Lickard?
He was looking to do new things with Pandemic, and something on his list was maybe a legacy game, because Risk Legacy, which I did when I was at Hasbro, had come out a year and a half before. And he started writing down ideas and thought there might be something for it, but he also recognized it was kind of a big project and that maybe a co-design would be a good way to go, which I'm really, thank you, Matt. So I found out at Gen Con in the US that he was interested in getting in touch with me, but we didn't know how to get in touch with each other, so we were on Twitter tweeting at each other, and then we got emails, and then we did emails, and he kind of said, do you want to do Pandemic Legacy? I'm like, yes, I do. And I thought it would be fun. I did not expect success like this. And he lives on one side of the United States, and I live on the other. We're on opposite coasts with about 5,000 kilometers in between. And so we do everything with video conference.
Cool.
We've managed to once, twice, maybe 3 times a year be at the same convention or on the same coast where we'll meet up in person, but 95% of the work is just over a video screen.
Wow, that must be,
it works for us, it works.
Well, it's obvious.
Well, even if the results weren't great, the process has been a pleasure to do it, and the fact that it's been received well is great as well.
You knew Pandemic before Matt told you? Yeah,
I had played it before. I remember the first time I played Pandemic, and you get the Epidemic card, and you shuffle the cards and you put them back on the discard pile. As a designer, I was mad because I hadn't thought of it. And as a player, I was really mad because it's really very cruel to do to players. But now that I'm on the other side and designing it, I just love it because I get to play with that,
It's great. And when you started designing Pandemic Legacy, all these ideas that in many ways some people said, wow, I don't want to break my game, all that stuff. You thought that were risky, that how people would fail with that?
Oh yeah, I mean the whole legacy idea was very risky, and there's some people who still don't like it, and I understand. There's 1,000 games that got released at this fair, and so there's one that matches their needs better. But it's very risky, but we wanted you to feel panic. We wanted you to feel like, I can't do this again. I only get one chance to do it, and I'm trying to save the world, and really put you in the shoes of someone who's living out like a summer movie. Or we see them running around and there's guns and we're like, it's a movie, it'll all work out. But we want to put you in it and think like, well, you don't know if it's going to all work out, and you don't know how it's going to work out. And the idea of making it permanent really increases that tension in a way that you can't do if you're like, we messed this up. let's go back and start again, right? Because you can. You're on the ride.
This is the main characteristic for a legacy game?
It's a few different things. It's two big things I think of is, one, some of the actions that you take in one game will permanently change the game. So you're going to write on things or upgrade characters or destroy things, but it's going to change somehow. And the second part of a legacy game, the way I've been designing them, is you're also going to get new information as you play that you didn't know was coming. But once you get it, you should be able to say, well, that makes sense, right? Oh yeah, wow, of course that's coming. So it's this combination of you're making changes and you don't know exactly how they're going to result, and we're giving you new information. So you're always kept in that sense of like just figuring out what's going on and trying to do the best with what you have.
I think that the idea of legacy games, it's yours, isn't it?
Yes.
And the games that are, there's Risk Legacy, Pandemic Legacy, and we have SeaFall now.
SeaFall, yeah.
But no one has done this before or after, I think.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it is new, so I no one did it before. I mean, it's got elements of D&D campaigns. It's got elements of a bunch of different influences, and I've heard from several people that people are pitching legacy games around here. Designers have now had a year to do one. I think when Risk came out, people thought, well, that's interesting, and a few people tried it and said, well, that's it's like designing 4 games. That I don't even know if it would work. It's not the good use of my time. Then Pandemic came out and it's done well, and people are finding it, well, it's probably worth their time to try to do it. I'm really excited to see what other people do with this idea. They'll take pieces of it and change it, and no ripping cards in this one or more ripping cards in that one. And they'll think of ideas that I never would have thought of, and it would be nice to play one and see what it feels like when someone's like, make this decision. I'm like, this doesn't, what? This is what I'm asking people to do?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that when we will see this interview, like 3 years after, sure, some people will have done more games based maybe on your legacy.
Yeah. It's nice. I've been designing games for 18 years, and in some ways, everyone only knows my last year, even though I've worked on maybe 70 or 80 games during that time. But it's nice to have done something that people will remember. Not only just like, oh, that was a good game, but wow, he did something really kind of crazy and different, and it worked out. I hope I have a lot of good games left in me, and maybe one more crazy idea like that, but we'll see.
Well, it has been a real revolution. I remember the first Pandemic Legacy games. Everyone was like posting on social networks, like breaking cards and that stuff. It's cool.
Well, it's scary to do that with cards. I recognize that cards are sacred. I don't walk around to people's games. It's art and it's valuable, and you don't put your water near it. So to ask people like, hey, rip up that card, I'm asking you to do something forbidden. Mm-hmm. Like, this is taboo. We don't do this. And so I want you to feel a little bit of that you did something wrong, and you're like, this doesn't feel good. But in a good way. It's like going to a casino where you're putting real money on the table, not just, well, here's some chips. It's like, oh, that's money. That's money, and I don't want to lose that, and I might win money, and it gives it a different feel, and that's what we were trying to kind of get with this game.
And looking at the games you have done before, I've seen many ones that are like regular board games from old times, like Risk, like Monopoly, but with add-ons, with versions, with new. Yep. How is work on that kind of games?
Oh, it's nice. I mean, I really like taking something where it's kind of done or a little out of date. I love being a developer, I guess, as much as I like being a designer, and some days more, which is, there's a really good idea here, and I see what the game's trying to do, and here's where it's getting in its own way, or here's where it might have been fun in 1960, but it's not fun now because tastes have changed. So how can I take these little pieces and make it feel the same in some ways and feel completely different in other ways? I love solving that puzzle. And one of the things I'm doing now is I've become part of a new company. There's just 2 of us called Restoration Games. And our goal is we take out-of-print games and we reprint them, but not as they were, but as they would be now.
Oh.
So we might go back and find a Parker Brothers family game from 1978 that just were like, this is a great game. It's not that good now, but it was great, and if we change it, it'll be great again, and then bring them back into print. So starting next year, I'll have a few games under the Restoration Games line where I'm acting in that role again of editing and touching it up.
Sounds really interesting. Like when you listen a remastered album of
it's somewhere either like somewhere between a remaster or a cover version, right? Like, here was a song from 1970, and I'm going to do my own version with modern arrangements.
Well, we will check it out. Talking a bit about SeaFall, I think it's going to be a really interesting game when it comes to our country in Spain. Now I see a lot of people playing, a lot of people getting a lot of fun. But it's a legacy, but this one, it's not cooperative.
It's not what?
Cooperative.
Yeah, it's not cooperative, it's competitive. So if you played Pandemic Legacy and you think SeaFall is the next step on that, it's not.
You're wrong.
Wait for Pandemic Legacy 2. SeaFall comes out of Risk Legacy. So it has more roots in sort of that competitive nature. It doesn't have to be super cutthroat. It's more Euro than American in many ways. At least it starts out more Euro. And it's meant to be something that it's like takes 2 hours and it slowly builds over the course of many games. I always kept saying it was like the Lord of the Rings, and that we're going to be in the Shire, we're going to take a walk, we're going to get to Bree, right? And you're like, and I don't know if it's going to work, right? Some of the early reviews have been like, this is taking a little while getting going. Maybe I made it a little too slow at the beginning, but then I'm seeing people say, oh yeah, it was a little slow, and then I get to game 4 and 5, and it just sort of like took off there.
What I've listened also, that it's a game that needs patience, but when you get it,
and I guess if I could go back and maybe make it a little faster at the beginning, I could, but I did my best. And I think that it's for people who like role-playing, people who like adventure stories, people who want to take this out like every couple weeks, play one more game, and then it'll just sort of build and build and build. And I think every box you open is more exciting than the one before it in terms of what's going to happen next. So it's trying to be this upward arc. Yeah, just until you get to the very last thing.
Okay.
And only now is it really in the hands of some people. And I don't have good, internet access here, but I'm seeing people, I'm on game 10, I'm on game 12, and so I'll really have a good sense of how many people what they think when they get through the whole thing. But every game I put out, I'm like, but this has had so much attention to it that I got a lot of nerves on it.
It needs patience also. People have to really play it, full game, to say.
So, but if you played Pandemic, and I like to tell people, and you're like, I like the quick 1 hour cooperative, I'm like, don't do this one, go wait for season 2.
The games are larger.
They're more complicated. They're more competitive. It's less forgiving in some ways. It's a game where you need to move your ships to do certain things and buy certain things, and you can do all of it, but if I'm a turn behind you all the time, your points will go up and mine will be like not quite catching up. So you have to like be able to really think 3 or 4 moves ahead. I'm going to go there, I'm going to get that, swing back to port, pick this up, head out to that island, do that out here. And if you're like, I'm 1 move off, now I got to spend another turn getting out. Now it's winter. All this happened, right? Like it can be unforgiving in that sense, where you're still having a good time, but you're not winning.
Okay, lots of choices there.
Lots of choices. What I love about the game is there are over 400 entries in a chapter book, like Tales of the Arabian Nights. So as you explore the island, you'll read things, and the whole story of the world comes into focus, like what happened before. It starts to emerge, and then all sorts of things happen in that book that I guarantee no one who's guessed what the plot is has come close, right? And so you start to see like what's going on and what's happening over here, and you don't have to tie it together, but for people who like a puzzle, like a story puzzle, you're like, wait, that,
can do it.
And then this, and then you had a dream, and I'm trying to figure out how this all comes together.
Man, there's a lot of adventure then.
It's a book of adventure. At the beginning, to try kind of train you, it's just like, well, let's just pick up some stuff and bring it home, and it's like a training game, and it's not very adventuresome. And then the adventure Because you start with 4 islands on the board and then a bunch of blank board.
Okay.
And once I'm like, okay, now go find new islands. Oh, and now you get to a certain point and you find that island, and then you find what's on that island, and then you keep digging down, and it gets more and more
And you put
adventure.
the name of the island.
And you write the name of the island, and you write the name of your ship, and you write the name of your advisors on there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, a bit influence of video games, maybe? Or
It's got some video games. It's got role-playing games. Like I said, it starts out as a Euro-style pick-up and deliver game.
Okay.
Oh, I'm picking up goods. I'm bringing them back home. I'm selling them. And you're like, this isn't Adventures on the High Sea. And then it's like, yes, it is. Hold on. Stay with me.
okay.
And then if you get too far ahead, I can swing by while you're away and steal something from you for the win. Not all the time. It's going to cost me. But if I'm smart about it and be like, you've left your port open.
Oh.
I can probably do it once per game, and the question is when. Right? I can't just sit in your port and steal. The game doesn't let you do that.
Okay.
And so you have to decide, do I leave a ship home? Do I go out? I'm like, okay, if that's stolen, do I get revenge this game? Do I get revenge next game?
Well, my hype is growing like the game.
So hopefully this is all working for people, but it's very different from Pandemic.
Sure.
So
And the aesthetic also.
yeah, and the aesthetic and the time and the, you know.
And you have obviously Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
Yeah.
But more projects to come?
Yeah, I have a number of projects. I try not to talk about them until they're getting buttoned up.
Okay.
I turned one over to Yellow at Gen Con in August, and that'll be out next year, sometime around now, which is a Cthulhu party game.
Oh, Cthulhu. We love Cthulhu.
There's so many good Cthulhu games, and they asked me to do one based on At the Mountains of Madness, right?
Okay,
Like you go up a mountain, and when you read the plot, you're like, people go up a mountain and they go crazy, and then they fly away. Like that's the entire plot. And so I was like, well, and I tried a bunch of different things, and then kind of stumbled upon this idea of why is it in a Cthulhu game that the characters get to go crazy? I want the players to go crazy. I want you at the end of the game to feel like, what just happened?
Okay.
And so it kind of turned into the game we have here, which I really like. It's a frantic game. It's cooperative. But as you play, you'll become less and less effective. You're not a traitor. You're just going insane. And so we have 30 seconds on a turn to figure out what cards to play in this space. And it's not that complicated, right? I've got a 4, you've got a 5, we need 9, let's both play our cards. But you might start going crazy where you won't talk to me, you'll only talk to him. So I'm like, I have a 4, and you're just looking away, like, I have a 4. And then you're like saying
like
to him, like, tell him I have a 5, and then he has to tell me. But meanwhile, I have something that I repeat the last number that I hear. So he was like, I have a 5. I'm like, 5. You're like, you have a 5? 5. And so, so it just gets harder and harder to figure out what people are saying as you're playing it.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Cool. Well, we'll check it out. It seems amazing.
So I've got that. I've got some other bigger legacy things in the background that they take a while, so I'll wait till I'm closer to the end. And some other smaller projects I'm doing, something very different for me, like a little abstract tile building, like puzzle almost sort of game. I have a couple games coming out more for family games in the United States, which is like for kids who are 6, and then like an adult party game. So I've got a bunch of little things that will be coming together over the next year.
Then it seems that the years to come would be a lot of board games from you, different ones.
Yeah, I've been doing this 18 years, but it feels like in some way this was my first year, and I'm really excited about the next couple years. Like I'm an 18-year overnight success. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Rob.
Thank you.
For your work. It's
thank you
amazing.
for having my games in your catalog. I hope they do all right for you.
It's a pleasure. We had much fun with Pandemic Legacy and SeaFall. Sure, it's going to be a blast, and all the games to come.
Okay.
And thank you, Rob, for everything, and have a nice fair.
Okay, thank you.